Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live on a very poor showing from the Chargers Sunday night. My name is Steven, and I'm the host, as always. And joining me to recap this mess, who thankfully did not have to watch it in person today, my guy, Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
I would have left in the first half. I'm not even joking. I probably would have just gone home and found some comfort, fat fried food, and called it an evening. I'm doing fine. You know, when you have a game like this, it didn't go like I had thought, but the outcome was what you and I had picked, which was a loss. Yeah. So I think I'm more balanced and I feel okay-ish about this relative to others. But I just saw that Connor Liu tore his ACL. We'll miss the rest of the season.
Oh, shoot.
So that center prospect you were hoping for, yeah, he just tore his ACL. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, obviously the ACL is not what it used to be, but yeah, that's no good. That's no good. I will say, like, for me personally, I did not feel like the usual football emotions today. I mentioned this yesterday, but I teach a teenage Sunday school class once a month at our church, and today happened to be that day. So I recorded the game on YouTube TV, and I got home at 2:00. Turned it on and was just like fast forwarding everything through that. So I did not feel the usual stuff. By the time I was already watching, it was 23-3 at halftime for the rest of you guys. So I did not feel my usual, negative emotions that were probably going to be happening on that kind of game. I was definitely more negative about my other team yesterday, but it is what it is. We'll talk about the Chargers stuff today as well. We are here for you guys, so we'll have some takeaways, but as always, we'll get to some questions, some super chats. Obviously, there's a lot of declarations being made about this team, and rightfully so. We're almost to the halfway point of the season. So I think we probably should have a conversation about like where this team is at and headed towards once we get to, past some of the today's games takeaways. But of course, have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Today's show of the Guilty as Charged podcast and every episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. I sure hope some of you used that Oronde Gadsden belief from last week and cashed in today. More on him later, obviously, as the big bright spot. Maybe you were feeling a big Keenan Allen performance that showed through today. Obviously, there's some emotional hedging that happens over on Prize Picks from time to time, and we definitely encourage you guys to take advantage there. Best way to do that is download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Okay, so I'm going to let you start today, Tyler, because like I mentioned, you were feeling the live emotions a lot more, than I was watching the game back on, from a recording standpoint. So where do you want to start today?
I will get to my point about the game really quickly because this is extremely generous. AJ Monroe sends in essentially $100 super chat saying it's exactly as Popper said. The Colts are a perfect example of what a great offensive line should be. Also, this is my first time sending a super chat. Listen to you guys on Spotify every day. Love the content. Better days are upon us. Much love, Steven and Tyler. Well, AJ, that's super, super generous. I don't know what it is about losses and Chargers fans and sending love and support like this, but we genuinely really appreciate it.
Yeah, very generous. Very grateful for AJ jumping in here. Appreciate I know a lot of our listeners are truly, wish they could jump in on a live show every now and then. So appreciate AJ looking sharp in the profile picture, I have to say. So thanks for jumping in here on a Sunday night, even though it was a not super great performance today. But the generosity of our listeners and fan base is always very appreciated from us.
Yeah, it definitely is. So thank you very much, AJ. I don't know if we follow each other on social media, but happy to follow you on social media with a $100 super chat like that. So
yeah,
thank you for always listening on Spotify too. Okay, where else can I start other than this defense? But I do want to we will talk about the defense, I think, primarily in this show because we were all worried about this. We spent plenty of time saying that these are the reasons why we're nervous about this game. And it all reared its ugly head. But before we jump into the on-field stuff and what happened, I do want, because a lot of people are off the Jesse Minter train altogether and understand a lot of it to a certain extent. You watch a team give up 38 points. They gave up 38 points on 8 Colts drives, which is not good. There were 9 drives, only 8 of them really counted, and even one was an first half sequence that they still had 2 points on. So the Colts did whatever they wanted. But I think when you see now a trend like this and a game like this, I think you have to, and as we're about halfway through the season, go back and look at the last year, this offseason, that sort of thing. And I want to go back to what we've been discussing, because the pendulum has swung now in the direction that we were more nervous about the last couple of years, which is this team doesn't have the guys. This team just does not, especially compared to a Colts team like this. The personnel is the first thing here. Yes, we will talk about Minter. We will talk about the players, and we have. But in games like this, when you give up 38, it's beyond the coaching, or at least just the coaching. And this is a group that spent, I think it was $8 million in new free agents last year. And only one of those players was on a 2-year deal, and that was Bud Dupree. I guess more on him later, I suppose. Then they spend their first 2 picks are on offensive players. Fine. But you give them Junior Colson, who has not played at all, basically, and I don't even know if he's good or bad. He could be a future Hall of Famer for all I know. Yeah. We have no idea. That's not Minter's fault. He's just not on the field. And then a Boygby. And then some day 3 corners, and that's generally it. And they play, and good for them, but that's it. Okay, now you got tons of money this offseason. What do? They spent $14.5 million on cap this year on 2 cast-off corners and 2 cast-off interior defensive linemen with some little other pieces here and there. Now, are those players playing all right? Yeah. Is bringing Tart back a good idea? Yeah, and he's been playing pretty well. But then they went out and they give him Jamari Caldwell and, Kyle Kennard. But again, they wait until the 3rd and 4th round with their 87th or whatever it was, 9th overall pick this past year in the 3rd round to give Minter some help. And you look across at the Colts, and this is, I believe there are 9 players that are starters or huge contributors on that team that were taken as homegrown Colts players in the first 3 rounds. Taylor, Warren, Pierce, Downs, Quentin Nelson, you name it. Yeah. And you can just tell that not only is it a coaching advantage for the Colts, they are firing on all cylinders, but they just have the guys that are homegrown and good players. And the Chargers just do not have that right now. So I will spend plenty of time today talking about Minter and the players and how disappointed I am in how they're playing, even though I expected the Colts to put up a lot of points. But we have to start with the fact that Minter has basically had no help. And his best pass rusher from last year, Khalil Mack, basically hasn't played. He played 12 snaps today. Mm-hmm. And his second best player? Sorry, after Derwin James, the other best player was Poona Ford, and he's not on the field for the Chargers this year. Yeah. So while I will 100% give plenty of time and microphone time and air time to saying Minter is not performing at the level I expected, the Chargers don't have the guys. And now we are seeing, as we were worried about this year with all the personnel the Chargers are going to face this year on the offense across from them, they just don't have the horses. Yeah. And we'll talk about it. The players that they did try to build around that I felt good about have dramatically decreased their play.
Yeah, I don't really know, the Jesse Minter stuff. I think, there's a lot of rushing to be out on him. Like you said, I think we need to kind of take a step back and really do a whole picture analysis of where the defense is at in that regard. I think you starting with the personnel decisions is super important. They very easily could have brought Poona Ford back. Like Punafort did not sign for that much of a contract extension upgrade than the Chargers could have afforded. Like it was a very simple decision. And they decided to look at that and say, we're going to sign multiple guys. We're going to throw Jamari Caldwell in there as well, and we'll figure it out. And I think individually, you know, Jamari Caldwell's playing well. Tier Tart is playing well, who is now injured. Naquan Jones playing well in his limited snaps. Otito Ogbonia, you know, maybe he can take a leap forward. And there was a lot of training camp hype about him. That did not, you know, pan out. He's also now injured. Justin Eboigbe, Deshaun Hand, like we'll figure out the pass rush between those two guys. And, you know, Eboigbe is kind of like breaking out a little bit. And, you know, there's been some flashes, but now Hand is hurt. And so now Eboigbe has to play more on rundowns. And so as a whole, like I can kind of understand why they got to that point, but sometimes you just have to figure out a way to keep your best players around. And I think from a personnel standpoint, you hit it on the head where they just have not given this defense enough. And I think, you know, heading into the season with Khalil Mack, Thule, Bud Dupree, Kyle Kennard, I understand like the approach. Well, Kyle Kennard is very clearly not ready. Bud Dupree was bad last year. He took another step back this year. Khalil Mack gets injured. Now you trade for Odafe Oweh, and that's going to help eventually. But you just haven't been able to see any real success. So your defensive line talent without Khalil out there is essentially Thule and Tier Tart. And the other guys are kind of like figuring things out. And so it's a real problem when you're going up against high-end offensive lines. And so, you know, part of our overall concern with the unit heading into the season is they didn't throw enough resources at it. And the schedule is going to be significantly better than it was last year. And that wasn't even like, we were not even talking about the Colts as being one of those teams because we just had no idea what to expect with the whole Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones bit. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately for the Chargers and Jesse Minter, it's been kind of the perfect storm for regression. Some of your best players are injured, sick, regressing. You know, your young players who you invested in have not taken a step forward outside of Thule. You know, you have a pretty good cornerback group. You have a good safety depth, you know, but then you trade Alohi and then Elijah Molden gets hurt. So it's kind of just this perfect storm of you didn't pour enough resources into it. The schedule is much more difficult. And you're dealing with, you know, some schematic regression as well, which we can definitely talk about. And that has resulted in this defense, which looks completely different than what it did last year. And aside from that, it feels different. Last year, it felt like guys were faster and more physical and making good decisions, and there was a lot more aggressive playmaking potential. This year just feels like they're waiting for units to come to them. They are waiting to get a stop. They're hoping somebody else will make a play, as opposed to playing free, playing loose. It looks a lot tighter. There's a lot more miscommunications. So it's just kind of bad all around, and you're playing a buzzsaw offense today, and this is the result. 38 points. The success rate, I'm sure tomorrow when we look on the website, is going to be like 70%. So it's just kind of this combination of everything from an external standpoint, and then you play good offenses. And even last week, you play an offense which has 2 players on it. And even last week, it didn't look good. So it's really, really frustrating right now for this defense. And I'm not sure I want to point the blame at Jesse Minter, like the schematic part of it for sure. But there's a lot of other issues going on here that are leading to the way that the defense has looked over the last month of the season in particular.
Yeah, as we've discussed before, and as Cody Alexander discussed before, there's overlap with the Brandon Staley defense here. This isn't a completely different thing, but
right.
I cannot make a comparison to Brandon Staley here because, well, one, we saw what happened like last year, and I do feel like everything with the Chargers players who were with Brandon Staley, like we saw them take a step forward, but this is not a hand-picked Brandon Staley defense, and which I believe was at the time the most expensive defense in the NFL. And half of them were burning a hole in the roster because they were on IR, or they traded him away to the Patriots, cough JC Jackson. Like this is not the same situation. Maybe the final box score result is the same, and I'm very frustrated too. But this is not a Brandon Staley situation that I'm aware of just yet. It is very disappointing. But I think this is a team, and we'll talk about the whole team, the whole big picture. Yeah. But it just feels like this is a team that started with an identity. Yes, they lost Slater, but they had their identity. They came out swinging the first 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I know they won the third game, but it started to get a little leaky in that game. They had this identity. They kind of knew what they were. And I just feel like they've been punched in the face so many times this season.
Yeah.
And they are trying to get back up. And they are going to be a better team. But this defense right now is starting to get its pieces back. And the offense is going to get its pieces back. But they're just not there. They've traveled this way and that way. And this guy's been hurt. And that guy's had the flu. This guy's been sick. This person's been hurt. And it just feels like today was it all catching up to them. As you said, the perfect storm. It really was the perfect storm. Yes, the Chargers thing is we are the storm. The perfect storm today was unfortunately that Colts offense.
Yeah, and I think specifically with the way that they have built this defensive roster, you're putting a lot on the shoulders of Derwin James, Deion Henley, Thule, Khalil when he's healthy, the safety room. You're putting a lot of responsibility on your best players to play well. And for me, like the biggest concern from these last few games is that we are not seeing a Deion Henley even remotely close to last season or the first 2 games where we were like, hey man, this is like the next guy up. This is potentially like your second team All-Pro, maybe even first team All-Pro. He is actively bad right now. Bad. And I know that like the health stuff with the illness and the losing 17 pounds, like it's very difficult. It's been a month. He is bad right now. He is taking himself out of rushing lanes left and right. He is not getting to depth properly. He is a detriment to the team right now, like flat out. And Derwin James too. Derwin James missed another 3 tackles today, according to PFF. He's at 11 missed tackles on the season, which is already more than he had last season. There are moments where I still see the same kind of player. There were some good coverage reps against, Tyler one-on-one. There were a couple good, pass rushes from him. There was a couple run stops. Your 2 best players without Khalil Mack, Deion Henley and Derwin James, they have to lead the charge. They have to be able to figure a way out to make things up here. And people have continued to point out like a team like the 49ers and their injury situation, or there are other teams dealing with a lot of injuries. The 49ers defense had 2 players, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, and they were balling out and the defense was looking good. And then you take those 2 players out and now it looks bad, although they're playing well tonight, it looks like. The Chargers need more out of Deion Henley and Derwin James, flat out. And they are the spirit. They are the heartbeat of the defense without Khalil Mack out there. And the 2 of them have been a detriment to the defense, in particular against the run, where they are not fitting the run properly at all. They are missing tackles. They are completely getting washed down. And so we can talk about a lot of scheme things. We can talk about a lot of other stuff that's going on. Like I mentioned, the perfect storm here. Your 2 best players have to play like your 2 best players. And right now we are seeing, I think, the worst version that we have seen of Deion Henley and the worst version of Derwin James that we have seen of Derwin James.
Yeah, with Derwin James, it feels very up and down. So as you said, coverage stuff, pass rush reps, there is still impact on the field.
Right.
So imagine all the plays the Colts ran today. And as we expect to go into this game, they're going to run it, and they work through their tight ends, plenty of plays. They put up 38 points. I'm assuming that means they were on the offense and on the field running enough plays. Anyone in the chat want to guess how many tackles Deion Henley had today, given all the plays they could have run and the emphasis on run game and all that sort of stuff? Does anyone want to guess? Because I'll tell you, 3, 2, 1, 2 tackles for Deion Henley today. At least with Derwin James, he led the team in tackles, and you probably will get a pressure, and you'll see a good coverage rep. Where was Deion Henley today? What has happened to this guy? It is alarming, and it has been a bit of a 1-2 with Dye as well, who didn't play. But Dye had kind of taken his own step back. But if you watch the games, Dye's a bit hit or miss. At least there's a hit. I feel like there's some good plays on there too. Deion Henley's non-existent. I don't know what happened. Like if Brandon Staley, for whatever delusional reason, thought that Deion Henley would end up like this, I mean, the fears are realized right now. Now, I think Henley's a much better player and maybe shouldn't have been benched. I think Henley can be a much better player, and we've seen it in this system. But boy, the version of Dan Henley in particular right now, who's going to play other than Derwin and the other corners the most snaps of anybody else.
Yeah.
He is your guy, your early down guy, your pass rusher, your coverage guy, the way you disguise blitzes, your quarterback spy, you name it. So one of the most integral parts of your defense had 2 tackles today and was completely non-existent. I don't even remember those tackles. And I don't remember really anything else. Again, everyone can sit here and say, oh yeah, that Derwin play, at least that Derwin play. It's not the level I expect. Like he is an all-pro player or should be. So I expect that play from him.
Sure.
Dayon, we had the conversation at the beginning of the year. We cheer these players. Here's where they're going to be. And after the first couple of weeks, it's like, yes, there's the Dayon Henley that will now take the all-pro leap. I'm ready to see Marlowe wax. I'm not, because they will never bench Dayon Henley. And I think Marlowe wax did play today for a little bit because Perryman didn't play the whole game.
Yeah.
But if that's the impact you're giving, we got to find something else. And when you mentioned that a while ago, that Junior Colson, the best version of this defense is with Junior Colson healthy and playing well. After a while, I'm like, okay, but they have Henley and Dye and Perryman and even Marlowe wax at this point, whatever. But now it's like, yeah, you are right. Like the best version would have included Colson playing at his best. We can't even get that. So you have these players. I don't know. I don't know. I do not know what happened, because in one offseason, Minter and Bowman turned Henley into a player I barely thought of, who couldn't start over last spring over Troy Dye, to one of the best defensive players they had. And they started this year with Dayon Henley playing lights out football. And I don't know where he's gone. The linebacker safety tandem and communication is so bad. Yeah. It is so bad right now. It was when they get to the 20-yard line, or the opposing offense gets to the 20 or the 15 or whatever, anyone want to take bets that it's not an untouched touchdown off of the right or left wides, parts of the defense?
Yeah.
It's been 4 weeks in a row of that now, at least. It's unreal what has happened to Dayon Henley and these safety groups, which I know was missing Molden, and I know technically also doesn't have Gilman, but where'd they go?
Yeah, it's really frustrating to watch. The run defense is bad, like I mentioned, and then the best thing about Dayon Henley to start last season was, hey man, like he is out here just covering so much grass from a coverage standpoint. He's getting to the hook, he is carrying overs, he is disrupting passing lanes, and people online are like, okay, well, you have these 3rd and 17 situations and you're getting a dig route on the inside for 18 yards like every time. What's going on? The problem is not the corners or the safeties there. The problem is the linebackers are not getting to their proper depths, and they're not causing any confusion of the windows. The whole plan of building your too high shell in those situations is that you want your safeties to be able to drive on the football after the linebackers get to their certain depth and disrupt the passing lanes. If they're not doing that, then the safeties can't drive on the football, the corners can't drive on the football, and you have a 3rd and 18 conversion to Alec Pierce, which looks super easy. And then people are like, oh, the corner is Jesse Minter. The problem is the linebackers are not getting to their depths. And we sat there and watched against the Chiefs and against the Raiders, where they were just all over the place, and the linebackers were playing so well, and now it's a major problem. And then you build this whole plan of the defense with Derwin James as essentially your 8th box defender, your 7th box defender. You want him around the football, and that's great. But then these teams have started to figure out a way to get play action going, and they get Derwin and the linebackers moving, and they come back the other way. And here's Tyler Warren wide open with nobody around him for 10 yards. Here's Michael Pittman wide open for a touchdown with nobody around him for 10 yards, because the 3 of them, the 2 linebackers, whoever's out there, whether that's Perryman or Dye or Wax and Derwin, they are biting so hard on the run fakes, and then their guys are going to the opposite sideline wide open. So it's not just like the tackling is bad, the effort is bad, the run fits are bad. Their eyes are bad. Like they're not seeing things well. And this is what happens against this offense, where it's built to try and get your linebackers moving. if they're seeing things poorly, this is what it looks like. And same thing for the Dolphins, and same thing for the Commanders. It's unfortunate. I'm not trying to pin this all on them because, you know, there are other players and coaches who did not perform well today. But this is where it starts for me. We can talk about Puna Ford. Mm-hmm. We can talk about, you know, the lack of investments. The Chargers need their main middle three defenders, who two of them are potential all-pro players. They need them to play like all-pro players, or the defense does not work.
Yep.
And that's where I'm at with this. Like, the defense, I think, needs to make some adjustments, but nothing will matter if Deion Henley and Derwin James are not playing like all-pro players. It's how they built the entire system out. And if they're playing like they are right now, the defense is going to continue to look like it did today.
When we were talking about the reasons we were worried about this Colts offense, granted, we picked Tyler Warren and Jonathan Taylor. Like, ooh, wow, so bold of us. But we didn't sit here and go, and I know Downs didn't play, but we didn't sit here and go Alex Pierce on a deep over, or, you know, Michael Pittman as an X receiver in the end. We didn't really talk about the receivers because it hasn't really been a corner issue. It generally speaking has not been a Dante Jackson, Benjamin St-Juste, Cam Hart, Tarheeb Still. Hasn't really been an issue. Have there been moments of issues? Yeah. But generally speaking, those guys are playing pretty well. And
I thought Benjamin St-Juste had like 3 or 4 great reps today.
No, he played great. He's probably an unsung hero. Like, please don't direct the blame at him. He probably played 12 snaps and had another 3 or 4 good plays, which he seems to have every week now. I think he's like one of the 5 best at passer rating allowed heading into this week. Probably continues after this week. Really hasn't been a corner issue. We started with with Taylor, with Warren, with the window dressing, because it is on Deion Henley and Derwin James and but Denzel Perryman and these guys. They just have been falling for it over and over again. I'm thinking, okay, you know what's going to happen. I think you said in our preview show, the Colts ran 5th most motion, pre-snap motion and all that.
Yep.
You're ready for this. You know what they're going to run. They're all healthy.
You should be.
Fair. You should be. Fair enough. And the third play of the game, where it's the play action and it's to Tyler Warren for 29 yards or whatever it was. I mean, you just see both the linebackers and everyone just bite so hard on the play action.
They're like right next to the defensive tackles on that one.
Yeah, they might as well have been run blitzing or something. That might have been slightly more useful on that play. And yet there's Tyler Warren by himself, or you're watching these players get so wide open by themselves. And it's just confounding to me. I understand if it's Tyler Warren versus Denzel Perryman in coverage and Tyler Warren wins, or look, Derwin James in the open field against Jonathan Taylor and Jonathan Taylor gets his. Fine. These are great players they're playing. You have potential offensive player of the year and a potential offensive rookie of the year, which only got helped by today, unfortunately. But the fact that you're nowhere even near those players is so concerning. So I mirror and echo your frustrations with, you know, you build around these guys to be your communicators in everything you do. You know, Dan Henley, Derwin James. Oh, you could rush them. You could throw them in coverage. They'll stop someone against the run. They're your spy guys. They're the guys that cover your tight ends or your slot players or whatever. And if that nucleus is broken and not playing very well right now, you see what you saw today.
Yeah. I think this is all kind of getting to the question that's in our thumbnail, in our thing is Jesse Minter a fraud? There's all, like you started your conversation with, a lot of Chargers fans are calling for his head. They are over him, and I'm not there even remotely close yet. I think this is still a coach that, when you look at the whole picture, you see a guy who took scraps from a previous regime that the defensive roster was in shambles, and he turned it into a top 10 defense, albeit against a softer schedule. It was still a top 10 defense. The first 2.5 games were great, and then the injuries started piling up. And there are some schematic answers that other teams have found out. And we've seen this with other coaches. You know, like, defense is so fickle and volatile in the NFL, especially when you're dealing with injuries, especially when you're dealing with the lack of resources. But good coaches figure out how to punch back. And at the very least, I think that Jesse Minter has earned the right to give us the chance to see what his punch back is. Is he going to make adjustments? You know, the Ravens last year, they moved Kyle Hamilton around a little bit from the previous regime, and that kind of worked for them, and they ended up being like a top 5 defense in the second half of the season. They're doing that again. There's some other things like that. The Lions a couple of years ago had Brian Branch playing safety. They moved him down to the slot. You do some things up front. Good coaches figure out a way to match what teams are doing. And I think part of Jesse Minter's approach has just been, let's get some of our guys back. Let's try and figure out, you know, who we have where. I'm at least willing to see what his answer is. And if there's no answer, then we can have that conversation about Jesse Minter. I believe in the coach that Jesse Minter is. I think, you know, you see the highest ceiling possible for this defense from last year. The floor has fallen out over the last few games. I think we can see Jesse Minter figure out how to answer back here. And if that doesn't happen, I will be the first to acknowledge that. But I think at the very minimum, I would encourage Chargers fans to give a potentially great defensive coordinator the chance to punch back against these teams when he gets some of his guys back. So there are definitely some issues, but I think that Jesse deserves to have some patience going forward over the next few weeks.
And I agree with you. I'm on the same page as you there. We can't just jump ship here right as they're getting some players back. They need that time to settle and hopefully, for the love of God, get these players healthy and just have them for, I don't know, a 4-game stretch. I'll take a 2-game stretch of Chargers defensive players without being hurt. Same goes for the offense, although I have less confidence in their coordinator. But I think we have to give him not just time to punch back and to see what he's got, but also get that help finally. And I think they acknowledge that with OA and that trade. That's going to take some time. Max coming back, that's going to take some time. But with the way the corners in general are playing, and I think for the most part, the way the interior defensive linemen are playing and how they've taken a step forward, I think there's enough there, especially because Minter's thing is the secondary and corners, where you feel pretty good about Minter overall. But as you said, if there's no punchback, if there are games, not necessarily like today, I mean, God, I hope it's not like today, but if we're seeing games like, you know, the Commanders game, for example, where they just don't have it against what a team they should definitely have at least an even match against, then we can absolutely start having that conversation. I'm willing to give Jesse Minter plenty of time. He's earned, I think, not the benefit of the doubt. He's earned the right for some patience. I don't think we can crown him this guy. By we, I mean a lot of Chargers fans. You know, he's that guy. He's oh my gosh. I mean, when they said they were a few weeks ago, when they went from Russell Wilson to Jackson Dart, no one here was saying, "Well, we're screwed." You know, they're gonna crush us. It was, haha, welcome to hell, Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
And that was really the point where we started to see the issues with the linebackers and the safeties and whatnot. So it's been only a handful of weeks. It's basically just been 1/4 of the season that we've seen Minter's defense struggle. So I'm going to give him some time. I don't know if that's this Thursday that they turn things around against Hawkinson and Jefferson and Addison and these guys. Yes, I know it's Carson Wentz, but also Daniel Jones today.
I would have been starting with Kevin O'Connell too, is a very similar, you know, tier of play caller as the one they saw today.
Yeah, and I think Justin Jefferson's the best player they're going to face all year. So it's again not really necessarily a corner issue lately. It might be a corner issue because it's just good luck. If you don't have a pass rush and you have Justin Jefferson wandering around, SOL. Do you think, so just talking about Jesse Minter, so the answer is no. I don't think he's a fraud. You don't believe he's a fraud. I at least think we should give him more time. And I'm even willing to be more patient into next season because I do want to see him with better players. Given the personnel that they have and given the injuries that they have, do you think I think Chargers fans are feeling this. They're saying a lot of it. They're well, from what I'm gathered from the comments and watching things live and in our comments is they're playing off, they're playing zone, they're playing soft, they're waiting. Do you think that's a product of who they have, whether it's injuries or personnel? Or do you genuinely think that Minter has just changed everything about what he's been doing and just backed off to kind of a bit more of what he was at the beginning of last year?
I think it is a combination of who he has. I think Dante Jackson and Tariq Still are not the kind of corners you want to play man coverage with. I think you can get away with it more with Cam Hart and Benjamin St. Juste, but they're rotating and they're your third options. I think with Derwin in the slot, you should be able to play more man coverage. But I think the whole, they're playing a lot of zone and playing off coverage. Like they're really trying to match routes. It's more of a man hybrid than it is a like zone coverage system. And I don't think like the issues has been the corners, like you mentioned earlier. I think the linebackers are not helping them. The safeties have made some mistakes as well. I think this is the right approach. For me, I would like to see them crank up the blitz rate a little bit more. And I actually think we saw them do that today. I'm curious to see what the numbers are there. But that to me is where I would kind of like point to my frustrations with, especially without Khalil Mack, where it's like, you're not getting enough pressure. Let's start sending more bodies at the problem. Whereas Jesse wants to kind of like protect things a little bit. So maybe this is a change that he makes going forward. At the end of the day, he does come from a Wink Martindale, Rex Ryan kind of scheme. And so I know that that's in his bag. And we saw some games where that was the case last year. But I think, being a secondary guy, he wants to let his secondary be protected and be able to have help and be able to match routes and see things in front of them. And I think that's just kind of what he wants out of that group first and foremost.
Yeah. So very, very curious. Yeah, like you said, what those numbers were. I believe the only punt they forced for a good while there was with a blitz on third down. And it was like a whole house call on that one. So can you do that this week, against Jefferson, Addison, these guys? I don't know. But if it's better than 38 points, I'll take it.
Yeah. So there are some people in the chat who are trying to say that we don't want to acknowledge that we're wrong. We're a few short weeks about Minter being great. We're a few short weeks of, removed from a 3-game stretch from the defense that looked very, very good. And last season was great too. So I think the great defense is still in there somewhere, but Minter's going to have to make some adjustments. I think that is absolutely fair. They need more from their stars. They need to get Khalil healthy. They need to get Denzel healthy. They need to get Troy Dye, Elijah Molden. They need to get all these guys healthy. They need some younger performers to stay healthy. I have no idea what's going to happen with the defensive tackle room right now. If Tier Tart misses time, that's going to be not pretty, considering he's been their best player up front in the defensive tackle room. So it's looked bad. I have no excuses for what has happened the last 3 weeks. But I think this staff, I still believe, is really, really good at their jobs. And I think we saw evidence of that last year to start this year. So I'm extremely frustrated with the way that it has gone, but I'm trying to be at least give the benefit of the doubt to this staff that they can fix some of the problems. Like the personnel is the personnel, and maybe they trade for a defensive tackle, or maybe they go, add a linebacker and that linebacker kind of like solve some things. But from a large point of view, this is going to be the personnel. They're not going to make like a drastic trade that will fix every issue here. So I'm frustrated. I'm right there with Chargers fans, but I do think that this has just kind of been a perfect storm of negative outcomes. And I'm going to let Jesse Minter at least get the chance to prove himself and solve some of the problems.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also worth considering. Now, this might change, well, maybe not with the Raiders, but I think Jesse Minter does, in general, play the Chiefs really well and has played the division very, very well. So I think that is something that, hey, push comes to shove. If you can go 5 for 6 on good defensive performances in your division, that is still very good. You're not going to face this buzzsaw Colts group every week.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Any other thoughts about the defense today, Tyler?
Nope, just some of the guys that went down. I hope they are okay. I know Bonia had a little, something happened in there as well. So hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, sounds like Matt Money Smith and some other people are saying that Tart was okay, which is great. Otito Bonia, I don't think he returned. I think I think that was a very similar play to what happened to Khalil. So TBD there.
Yeah.
All right. Our audio audience is going to take a quick break, 40 minutes in. So a lot of venting about the defense today, and I think that's the right place to start that. But we'll be back with more Chargers Colts post game. Okay, let's get to the offense here. I think some positive moments. Obviously, Oronde Gadsden and Keenan Allen looked fantastic. So 24 points. They had a couple chances at some more. Obviously, the Justin Herbert interception in the red zone did not help matters, but Oronde Gadsden goes 7 for 164 and his first career touchdown. Keenan Allen 11 for 119 and a touchdown. Lamek Conkey 9 for 67. Justin Herbert goes for 420 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, but very inconsistent. Lot of offensive pressures, which is going to happen when you throw the ball 65 times or whatever it was. Where are you at with the way the offense played today?
All right, I'm going to grab a sword to defend myself. Hold on, just in case. All right, here we go. Actually, it's more of a dagger. This is a sting. Anyway, so Justin Herbert didn't play a great game overall. All right, hang on. Hang on, guys. Okay, hear me out on this one.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's the reason they lost whatsoever, but when you consider some of the moments, it was not a great Herbert performance. And I'll only start there because generally speaking, he's not the issue for Frodo. Well, wrong sword. I don't have that one. But anyway, it's not glowing. There's no goblins. Can you guys see yourself? Can you see me? Ooh. Anyway.
Yep. There you go.
It could have been a better Herbert performance. Now, there are reasons why it could have been a better Herbert performance that aren't his fault. I know the line in front of him played the way it did. I know that. But there were enough passes thrown behind players today where by about the 4th time and then the 5th time, and including on that interception in the red zone that kind of sealed their fate, even though it was, mid-ish way through the game, it could have been better. Now, did he also 85% of the time save their asses? Absolutely. But I just want to start with the quarterback because I don't want to sit here and say that Herbert was perfect and the team let him down. He could have been better. The red zone interception was a killer, unfortunately. And I hope that he plays better moving forward. With that said, the way I have it here is it's a great but flawed output. That stat sheet for Herbert is pretty dang good. But there were, I'll say, 7 plays in there where I wish you were a bit better.
I think that's completely fair. Obviously, the first was the batted interception the first interception or the second?
It was the first.
Okay. That interception, people who are Herbert defenders will be like, "Oh, like that's not his fault." It kind of was his fault. Like he had somebody open, and then he double clutched, and then he threw it, trying to throw it back that way. There was another pass where same kind of deal where he hesitated. He had somebody open, could have thrown it and didn't. I think when you throw that many times and you're under that much pressure, it's a little understandable to look at this and say, man, Herbert played okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't also bad either. I don't think this is like the reason why the Chargers, this is not the reason why the Chargers lost today. After the game, he's like, yeah, I can't turn the ball over in the red zone there. Like we still had a chance to win. They were going to lose regardless, my guy. Your defense had no chance today. But at the same time, like it's very difficult to perform in these kind of situations. I think overall, we're at the point of the offense where it's Justin Herbert hero ball, or like the offense doesn't work. So I don't think he played awesome, but I think just his sheer playmaking ability is basically the only reason why they scored 24 points. Like, we talked about the red zone offense previously. Greg Roman runs like 4 concepts in the red zone, and it pisses me off so much. They'll get into the 3 tight end sets, and they'll do the 4 vert play action thing, hoping that it's going to catch somebody off guard. It never does. They will motion somebody, hoping that it's man coverage to get a tail. It's not man coverage, and they're still running the crossing routes with mesh sail thing like every other play. And the only reason that ever works is because Herbert will extend out of the pocket, throw a touchdown once the window's finally open after like 5-6 seconds. So did Herbert play his best game? No, but I think the only reason they really had 24 points is because Herbert essentially has this ability where he can just put things on his back and go score points. And it's unfortunate that the offensive line is in this state, and the overall game plan is in this state where they have the chance to cut it. What was the situation here? Let me make sure I get this right. So you have the chance. It's 38-24. You get one final drive, and because of the offensive line, they had a 21 play drive that took 9 minutes in the fourth quarter, down 38-24, and they very nearly, they very nearly get it down to the end of the game. But then Herbert gets a sack. He gets sacked. They get a delay of game penalty on 4th and 22. I thought that Zaire Franklin interfered with Ladd McConkey, honestly. But a 21 play drive to go 60 yards is not great. So I agree with you. It wasn't his best performance, but the only reason they were in that game, even like remotely close, is because Herbert just kind of put things on his back a little bit. The quick game looked good. Oronde looks good, but yeah, man, the red zone offense pisses me off. I hate watching it every single week on tape, and it continued to be a bad problem today.
Yeah, the Herbert extension plays, the immediate pressure, okay, let's just run for my life and then throw it to this player and that player, like unbelievable stuff on film. Yeah. I'm bummed that he lost. I'm bummed he had that red zone interception because everything else was so good. So by the standards of what we hope for Herbert, wish it were better. The red zone interception sucks. But for the most part, as you said, they're not even close to this output today without him working off script. And once again, like we've joked about it, has Herbert had a normal red zone touchdown all year? It feels like
scrambles, man.
The answer is yes, he has. But I feel like I can count them all in one hand. Now, granted, they don't score much in the red zone as is, but it's like I don't know, run around scramble, Keenan Allen. Have all of Keenan Allen's touchdowns been scrambles?
I think his first one against the Chiefs was normal. I think the one against the Chiefs was normal, but that's
perfect.
That was 8 weeks ago.
That was a while ago. I mean, it really is just like, okay, hike. No, I'm sorry. First, it's okay, we're in the red zone. Then it's a penalty. Then it's a run for one. No, it's a run for one first. Then it's a sack. And then it's Herbert, run for your life. Figure something out. I can't stand the Chargers red zone offense. The Colts were 30% better than them going into this game. The Chargers were at 35%. I don't want to know what it's like after this week. I know they scored more eventually. I don't recall how much was in the red zone, but it's brutal. They have no answer, and I think that's something maybe we can touch on in a future episode. Like, what do you do? What do you change? Because they move okay from 20-20 or 35-20, and the return game is a little better today. But boy, they get to the red zone, and it is a consistent false start, holding penalty, early pressure, stunt not picked up, you name it. It's like clockwork for this team now to somehow get into these high leverage red zone situations and shit the bed. So I don't know what to tell you about this red zone offense. I think that they have to lean into different personnel, or I don't know, call a different play. Yes, Hampton being back should help. Hampton better than Vidal and Haskins and whatnot. Like, I think that is just naturally going to help. But I'm asking them to intentionally call a run for Herbert in the red zone. I am asking them to maybe throw it to Trey Harris. This dude, every time he touches the football, is pretty good. He's a big part of their rushing attack too. Yeah. So it's not like him being on the field means, immediate fade to Trey Harris. Give me something. Give me anything, because it's just run around, or it's a crosser to Quentin Johnston going to the right. Has it been that 42 times this year? I feel like it has. I feel like every time Quentin Johnston's in the red zone, it's a crosser going to the right, or it's McConkey on a scramble, or Herbert is rolling out and has to pray to God there's somebody is open, and he does some stupid heroic thing for no reason, or for some reason, because he's awesome. So, yeah, red zone not great. Pass protection, your thoughts in general. I have two thoughts on this, which is the first is that it wasn't really good to begin the game anyway. Like, it's not like they were up and wow, it was such amazing pass protection. But in the second half, or I don't know, maybe in the early second quarter, they abandoned the run. They had to abandon the run. So the numbers won't be pretty, but they threw it 39 times, or they dropped back 39 times last week, and they did it 64 times, I think it was this week. Like it was a lose-lose for the Chargers in pass protection this week. The defense almost made them worse in pass protection because they just had to pass it every time. So it's DeForest Buckner and everyone going, "Oh, cool. Is it a run play? Of course not. We're up by 21. It's a passing play. So just pass rush every time." So I didn't think it was good to begin with. I think that would have carried throughout the game. But they also were put in a bad spot.
Yeah, when you're down 20-3, basically immediately, you can take out all of the good stuff they did last week, which was, the protect with 6, you chip, max protect. You could take all those plays out of the book when it's 20-3. You cannot do your usual, protection scheme stuff. And the numbers for the offensive line are not going to be good. 23 unofficial pressures right now. I'm sure that could increase once PFF kind of reviews things. I think that this was again a very poor matchup for the Chargers in a very poor game script. We saw so many plays where the Colts get out in these 3 edge rusher looks, and their interior rusher is DeForest Buckner, who, according to Seth Walder from ESPN, has the most wins of any interior player since like 2021, I think it was, with 12 individual wins. He had 2 sacks officially. And so it was a very poor Zion Johnson game. It was a very poor Mekhi Becton game. And then the other 3 played at the same level that they have been, which is very poor individually. So I'm at the point where I'm not even like bucketing Bradley Bozeman as a notch above the 2 backup tackles. Like he is in the same level of the 2 backup tackles. And you combine that with a bad Zion Johnson game and a bad Mekhi Becton game, who on initial watch PFF has Becton with 7 pressures allowed. You just can't have that. They are not all pro guards like Dayon and Derwin, right? But when you have this kind of setup with your backup tackles, your center stinks so bad again today. You need Zion Johnson and Mekhi Becton to play at least well. Like you can't be also just as bad. And unfortunately, we're today. There are multiple reps on some of the clips that I've seen already and during the game where Zion is like looking to see if he wants to help one way, and then Bozeman's losing this way. Bozeman's looking to see if he wants to help to his right, and Zion's losing to his left. Like the pass protection plan when the Chargers are in empty and they can't have somebody chipping is like they have no idea. Am I going left? Am I going right? I don't know. And it's just like, make up your mind, guys. You're NFL players, like figure it out. So I thought the plan essentially was thrown out the window when you're down 20-3 and you can't run the football, and these guys can just pin their earbacks and go. But then also the 2 guards who have been playing well, and we're the Zion podcast, obviously, but those 2 guys played extremely poorly today. And so did the other 3. And, the good news for the offensive line is that Joe Alt is probably back on Thursday. And Trey Pipkins probably not back on Thursday, but maybe the week after that. And so your tackle situation should be a little more firm, and then you can dedicate some stuff to the interior a little bit more heavily. At the end of the day, you're still going to have that dude at center. But, people are going to clown on the offensive line, and I get it. But you can't do any of your max protect stuff. You can't run the football when you're down 20-3, basically right out the gate.
Yeah, you're not exactly rolling out Tucker Fisk and Will Dissly when you're down 20 points. Like you're not just like, I mean,
they were running 4 receiver sets like the whole second half, I feel like. Or if it wasn't, it was 3 receivers and Oronde.
And Gadsden, which is essentially a
essentially 4 receiver sets.
4 receiver sets, yeah. And I'm glad he came up. I know he banged up his knee a little bit. I'm glad he was okay and had an awesome day in front of Antonio Gates' ceremony. So pretty cool there. And again, Gadsden is not the reason they lost today at all. But yeah, the line did not play well. I also don't know what, I think Mekhi Becton, like you said, 7 pressures allowed in this game unofficially. Maybe it becomes 6, maybe it becomes 5. I don't know. but was not a good game from him where they really, really needed him to. He also, once again, did not play 100% of the snaps, played most of them. I want to say 90%.
He missed like 3, I think.
Yeah. So he didn't miss a ton, but it's like, God, another game where Mekhi Becton cannot play the entire game and wasn't good in the game. That's the thing. Like, Mekhi Becton's at least been top 15 in PBE. Generally, the numbers have been good. I think he's allowed 9 pressures all year. And if he allowed 7 today, like that is not good.
Yeah, not good. There's been a lot of negative today. And like, if you're positive till the rails fall off kind of person, I more power to you, but there's just no way you can watch this game today and feel great about this team going forward. The silver lining, I think, is Oronde as well as the other pass catchers. I think you and I we kind of thought that the Chargers could put up points, and if Herbert doesn't throw that red zone pick, and maybe if you're a couple other plays from potentially having a chance to not win the game, but maybe you're at 38-31 kind of situation. You had a chance to make this game more competitive at the end than it was, and obviously some of that is garbage time and things like that. But if Oronde Gadsden is this, it dramatically changes how they can call offense in the future. Mm-hmm. And being able to have a high-end pass-catching weapon at tight end, it is the core essence of how Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh want to coach offensive football. Mm-hmm. And we said this, heading into the offseason, we're like, they need to invest in a premium tight end. They didn't do that. They obviously took Oronde Gadsden in the 5th round. And now with him playing at this level, you can design a lot of your usual Harbaugh Roman stuff because Oronde is that dude. And I mentioned this last week. I will fully admit I take the L. He was not a guy I loved. But if he has this level in him, then the Chargers offense in the future has a much higher ceiling. And we know that Justin Herbert wants to throw the football to tight ends. He loves throwing the football to his tight ends. He's just never really had that guy. And now it seems like he might. So he's already exceeded the yardage total that I thought he would have at this point in time. He's on pace for like 700, 800 yards at this time, which I think he will continue to improve on. So this is the silver lining. If you want to find a silver lining today, it is that the Chargers have that next dude at tight end. And the receivers look pretty good, man. Quentin didn't have a great game today, but Ladd did his usual stuff. Keenan looked good. Trey Harris looked good in limited, fashion. The pass catchers they're setting up pretty nicely for the future here. And Oronde playing like this today is going to be a huge part of that.
Yeah, Gadsden aside, we'll get to him I'll get to him. But if you invest in not defensive players, at least you invested in offensive players that seem to be panning out. Jawalt McConkey, of course. Sure. Hampton when he comes back, but Hampton looked great. Trey Harris is a per play guy right now, but he has at least a very positive effect on the offense every time he's out there. So at least if you're investing in offense early, at least they're paying off when they're on the field. Yeah. Gadsden, holy cow. I would have settled around under whatever likely had his first year as a rookie with the Ravens, because in terms of the pecking order, I didn't think they would completely go away from Will Dissly. I know he's been hurt, but they've generally moved away from him, which it's fine given you have Gadsden, but I didn't think we'd bench Tyler Conklin, before week 6. So I did not see this total output for Gadsden, but he's, we knew he was a good receiving option. He could run the routes, all that sort of stuff. Worried about the blocking, and the Chargers said, who cares? We'll bulk this guy up. He'll block when he needs to. Hopefully it's good. We'll just send him down the field and catch a deep over or a go ball or whatever he did. I don't remember if it was like an out and up today or what it was that drew either a holding or whatever it was from the defense where he got that huge play. But that was special. Some of the stuff with the rollouts has been cool. Sitting in zones has been cool. All that stuff has been all right. But that particular deep route where he drew the call, had contact through it, fought through the contact, made a great catch, and then picked up several more yards after that. That now we're in special territory. Yeah. And that stuff was in the NFL. well, it's special, and that's why he had the most. I lost track of how many Chargers records he broke because he kept doing it. So I don't know where he ended up, but it was like, oh, the most since Antonio Gates' rookie season is the most by a Chargers tight end since Hunter Henry. It was the most by a duo with Keenan Allen since 2013 or whatever it was. There were like 4 different things that Gadsden broke today. And like you said, the ceiling of what they can call and what they can do on this offense has changed so much. And I think they are just like, I don't really know what we have, honestly. I think they didn't expect to see what Gadsden has been doing, but okay, let's keep pressing these buttons. And every single time he's come up big to the point where, I mean, I know he's a tight end, but he's like wide receiver 2 on this team, it feels like, which is pretty crazy. So will he have a $164 next week? I don't know, but I'm not going to put it past him at this point.
Yeah, so to your Isaiah Likely comparison, he had 373 yards as a rookie. Mm-hmm. Gadsden is already at 304. He's on pace for 748 on the season. And that's not like that's not pacing to the games where he like wasn't really a factor. That's including all of the games. So he is exceeding any expectations that I think even Alex Insdorf had for him, who was like the champion of the Oronde Gadsden hype train. Unfortunate for Alex Insdorf, though, is that he also has to buy a Gadsden yellow jersey after tweeting that out. So we will absolutely hold him out.
He's too cheap. No way.
We are going to pressure him to make sure that happens for you guys. But I think the offense definitely has its flaws. I'm extremely concerned about the red zone stuff. I think when Joe Alt and Trey Pipkins come back, I think it will look better. And so that moves me to kind of like the final point I think we want to touch on today is that are the 2025 Los Angeles Chargers a playoff team, or is the season trending towards a 9-8 non-playoff situation? Where are you at with that question today, Tyler?
Okay. So do I get Joe Alt back this week, and is Hampton back in 2 more games, or I don't know when is Hampton? Do I get these players back in the next couple of weeks?
You'll get all back on Thursday, and
okay.
I will say Pipkins the following week. Hampton, based off of the reporting, I think maybe that's more of a. Let's see, what's their schedule?
It's Vikings, then Titans, then Pittsburgh, then Jacksonville, then the bye.
So he was on IR after the Commanders game, so he's missed 2 games. Let's say Hampton is back after the bye, like worst case scenario.
Okay. I believe they are, because of the AFC and the cluster F that it is, I do believe they are a playoff team. I believe that they will not win their division, which granted, that's what I thought anyway. It's just we've now returned to that after a 3-0 start. Unfortunately, apparently the Chiefs without their 2 receivers are worse than with their 2 receivers. So it seems like they're back on track now, which I know they just played the Raiders, but they've looked pretty good on offense and will once again, I think, win the division.
Yeah.
So I believe they're a playoff team, but they are now kind of, to me, the same caliber of playoff team they were last year, just for different reasons. And I think there's some good stuff they have on offense that they can bring into the postseason. I think with Hampton, they will bring a run game into the postseason, but I don't want to see this team play. I mean, we say it every year, but like the Bills, I don't want to see this defense play the Bills. I don't want to see some of these offenses go up against the Chargers defense. So I think I'll know. I picked the Chargers to lose this one, and we picked the Chargers to get their ass kicked on defense heading into this game. I think I will know more about the Chargers after the Steelers and Jaguars games. But for right now, I still think they are a playoff team. Now, can you then go beat Rodgers and the Steelers and whatever Lawrence decides to do that day in the Jaguars?
Yeah.
You go beat those 2 teams, I kind of see where your floor is. Losing the Colts, it doesn't really change my opinion too much. But they are a playoff team firmly, but it's TBD on who they play in the playoffs, for how far they go.
I think because the AFC is where it's at right now, I think the answer to this question is still a yes. You still have, some guys coming back and things like that, and I think just the floor is much lower than we thought.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Giants game showed that. Today showed that. Where they're in kind of a similar situation to last year, where they just don't have the ability to kind of crawl out of this funk at times. As it currently stands, Next Gen Stats has their playoff probability percent at 55%. They're currently the 6th seed, Jaguars 7, Chiefs 8. And then the Bengals are 9th with Joe Flacco. I know they just beat the Steelers, but they're not a good team. So essentially, the Chargers, Jaguars, to me, and the Broncos are going to be fighting for that final spot. And it sucks to think that that's where the Chargers are at. Given that a few weeks ago we were like, hey man, maybe they could host a playoff game this year and potentially win that playoff game, and who knows after that. But I think the floor is just not as high as we wanted it to be this year. So I lean yes, but honestly, it's more about the AFC than it is about the Chargers because the Ravens are so decimated by injuries. The Bengals are out of it. There's just not that many good teams in the AFC this year. And fortunately for the Chargers, they're going to be able to do that. So I think they should be able to win the next 2 games to get to 6-3. I hope they win against the Steelers because I will be there for that game. But if you are, let's say, hypothetically speaking, they're able to go 3-1 over their next 4 games heading into the bye week. So that would put them at 7-5. I don't feel great about this team beating the Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, who were an absolute buzzsaw on offense, Texans, and at Denver. That's a tough situation. So I kind of feel like if they are going to be like a 5 seed, they probably have to go win their next 4 games. And I just don't think that's going to be the case. So it feels, long way of answering that question, it feels like yes, but it feels they're more of a 7 seed than they are a 5 seed or a division winner.
Yeah, at minimum, I can only look at their schedule and say Titans win, Raiders win as the ones I would bet money on, or like significant money. If you tell me $100, or you should bet $100 on all the games you think they're going to win, which ones would you bet on? I pick 2. And that's kind of where they're at right now, and it's only because the Titans are just kind of a sad team, and the Raiders are an awful sad team. It's just a little funnier, but otherwise, the rest, like I'm not the Vikings on Thursday. Yeah, sure, I can poke fun at Carson Wentz. I don't know how they're stopping Hawkinson if they can't stop Warner. I don't know how they're stopping Justin Jefferson. Steelers, Jags. I mean, the Jags are kind of a mess, but I watched Lee and Cohen, like, granted, different team, walk Minter's defense up and down the field with Bucky Irving and everybody. They just dog walked that defense last year, and they'll get more time to gel. So it's just, I don't know, man. They are a playoff team because of their 3-0 start and because of the AFC, but they are not a playoff team, a Super Bowl team, an AFC champion team, as they are playing right now. Hey, we will talk about this again probably at the bye. Now, where are they? And we might say, hey, wow, they went on a huge game-winning stretch, whatever. Jesse Minter flipped to the other side of his playbook and play sheet and then was calling things like crazy. But for right now, they are a playoff team because of circumstance and an early start, not because of how they're playing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you and I kind of define success in this season as, can you win a playoff game? And other than that, it will be a disappointment. And I still feel that way. If this team misses the playoffs outright, it would be a massive disappointment, even with all of the injuries and things like that. You start 3-0, all in the division, and then you miss the playoffs. That would be extremely disappointing for this particular season. So hopefully they can right the ship, man. They got some very talented players that are not playing like it, and they got some coaches who are getting out-coached on a weekly basis that should not be getting out-coached on a weekly basis. So they desperately need that to turn around. Otherwise, this is going to be a extremely frustrating season. And if this defense gets cooked by Carson Wentz, man, I don't know. I might answer this question very differently if that happens on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think that's still a the defense gets carved up by the receiving options in O'Connell, and Carson Wentz just threw the ball accurately. More so not, but if it's a pure like Carson Wentz is looking like Joe Flacco did against the Steelers, where everything was clicking and he couldn't miss, then we will have that conversation.
Yeah. Okay, Tyler. Any final thoughts before we get to some of these super chats?
Let's get to these super chats.
Alrighty, sounds good. Okay, Steven Saba kicking us off earlier today says, yeah, we are in trouble. Running D is non-existent. I think the personnel issues are finally apparent. I'm usually optimistic, but need help, excuse me.
Yeah, it's tough when, other than maybe the run defense, you look at the issues that Chargers fans had going into the season. Offensive line, pass rushers, that sort of thing. And they're not playing well right now. So I agree. I think the optimism is slowly fading after a sobering reality like this.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Mr. Dark Chow Chow says Colts make all defenses look bad. They are the only offense that beat you with both the run and the pass. They can't be stopped. Buckner owns Zion. Yeah, he is the Zion guy. So that's an accurate sentence there. The Colts have scored over 29 points in all of their games except for one. So they are a great offense, and Shane Steichen is pushing all the right buttons, and I will give him a lot of credit for that. And Daniel Jones is not making any mistakes. I'll give him credit for that. That being said, I think if you have a defensive line like the Rams did, who held them to 20, you can make things more difficult. And that really is you got to match their physicality up front, and the Chargers did not do that today.
No, and I mean, geez, Daniel Jones, he made a couple of decent plays, but it was really just, I don't know. Okay, sucking via play action.
Wide open, it's here. Wide open there.
Yeah, I mean, it was good for him, again, for getting all that done, and he did make a couple of plays, but I mean, you watch what Herbert had to do to get to 24 versus what Jones had to do to get to 38. Two completely different two different levels of difficulty to do what they had to do.
Yeah, everything for the Colts was so easy today. It was crazy. JLM79 says Chargers haven't drafted a defensive player in the first round since 2020, and we selected Kenneth Murray, so it doesn't count. Also, Tillery in 2019,
which also doesn't count.
Was worse, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely part of it. I mean, to me, like you mentioned, your first 3 rounds are where you're going to get your star players from, and the Chargers have not invested enough defensive resources into that group. And then Dayon and Derwin are not playing well, so it does not help matters there. So they need to put resources into the draft on the defense next year. They also probably need to find some offensive linemen and stuff like that. But this is why a couple of weeks ago I said, like, first round for me at this current time is a defensive lineman, whether that's an edge rusher or defensive tackle, and I still feel that way. And linebacker might not be far behind that list, to be completely honest at this point.
Yeah, no, I don't know what to do at linebacker right now. I hope the Chargers have some positive clarity moving forward on that one, because I mean, if this is Deion Henley and what you've got, you might have to sign somebody or do something next year.
Yeah. Michael Mertenyak says defense getting cooked recently, being here from Slovakia for the Superchargers game. So sad.
Jeez.
What do we need to change for the Vikings game? So that's Thursday night. So hopefully Thursday night will be better than tonight, or was for sure.
I think at the end of the day, what you mentioned about it just feels different for this Chargers defense. They're not attackers. They're not aggressive. They're just kind of waiters and wait and see what's in front of them. I think at this point, if this is just what you've got and this is the personnel you have, just go for it. Go full whoever. Wink, as you said. Go full. Who was the team that blitzed? Was it the Vikings 2 years ago? Who blitzed 2 billion times?
Yeah,
a game. Just whatever you got to do. Just do anything else. It's not watching, trying to zone match and watch everybody. It is not working right now. Or I don't know. Give Dan Henley the flu again.
make him lose the 17 pounds back.
Just take it off, man.
To your point, Alex with another super chat here says a year of tape means every OC knows Minter's pattern match rules and how to manipulate our zones. There's been absolutely no adjustment since Denver game by Minter. Feels like Staley at his worst. I'm going to push back to that. I don't feel like Staley at his worst was this level. Like the Chargers are still doing some good things on defense, and their simulated pressure packages are still really good. They're still able to get some stops. Obviously today was not great, but Staley at his worst was like, they gave it like 40 points to the Patriots and Mac Jones offense. Like it was significantly worse than what we're seeing right now. So I understand the frustration. He is right that teams now have some tape to figure out the match rules and things like that. But the Chargers are also just not executing the rules properly right now. It's both things there.
Yeah, Deion Henley is a yard to the left or right or back away from actually being a very good coverage linebacker. He's just completely consistently 1 yard away from being where he's supposed to.
Yeah.
And there's just the right in front of him, behind him, over his head, to the right of him, you name it. If that's even fixed, you get a slightly better defensive effort.
Yeah. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man says, I miss you, Puna Ford. Please come back. We were very adamant that he should be brought back. Still don't understand why that didn't happen, but we agree there. Putts and Bolts says, how do we get guys open sooner so Herbo doesn't get killed? Why is Dupree starting? Great game, OG3 or OG2, excuse me.
Why is he starting? I don't believe he was starting. It was officially, at least the first snap was Thule and Owe that I saw. Don't know what the snaps were. I'm assuming, though I'm kind of bummed they cut Murphy, that as Khalil Mack becomes his usual self and probably plays more snaps in a normal, not blown out game script, that Dupree slowly works his way to that fourth guy.
Yeah, for sure. Khalil Mack only played 12 snaps today. So great to see him out there. Obviously, he got the 1 sack, which was great to see. But Dupree, his role right now is like, you take on a puller and you set the edge. And, unfortunately, the Chargers have to play him a little bit more than they should be. But once Khalil is back up to speed, him and Thule will start. Owe will be your third guy. And then, I don't know, man. I am not like super upset that they cut Caleb Murphy for him, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like for this particular game, sure, play Dupree because you need him to stop the run a little bit more. But going forward, Dupree should not be active on game days, I think.
Yeah, I wish that were the case. Yeah, I don't know if it will be.
Yeah. Bob Middleton, 49ers lost more and still better. This is coaching. Kyle Shanahan is a better coach than Greg Roman on offense. That is for sure. And Robert Saleh is a very good defensive coordinator as well. So, yeah, this is the comparison, right? But, Kyle Shanahan, he had a top 8 offense with like Nick Mullins running quarterback. And the year prior to that, it was CJ Beathard, and they were still like top 12. Kyle Shanahan, to me, is like one of the 2 or 3 best coaches in the league right now.
Yeah, definitely. Saleh, I'm assuming with all of this, has had more experience digging deep and picking stuff that he had to work through in years and years of calling plays.
Yeah. Is this true that the Raiders benched JPJ?
I don't know. By the time I got to my parents' house, my dad had turned the TV off. So I can look it up while you're talking.
Did you see the stat about how many first downs the Chiefs had versus how many plays the Raiders ran in total?
The Raiders had the fewest plays run since 2002 or whatever it was.
That's crazy. 29 total plays in an NFL game is insane. So they're basically just like 3 and outing the whole day.
Yeah, that's impossible. That almost seems impossible.
I'm gonna look this up now.
Raiders bench. I don't know what it's been with him, because even Chip Kelly got on the podium and was like, he's getting really big in the head, or his ego, or whatever he's talking about. Like,
so the Raiders went 5 plays punt, 5 plays punt, 3 and out, 1 play end of half kneel down, 3 and out, 4 and out, 4 and out, fumble on the first play of a drive, 3 and out, 1 play end of game. Their longest drive was 5 plays. And it was their first drive.
And killer opening script there.
Wow,
that's about it.
That is next level bad. Chances of the Raiders trading him to the Chargers 0%.
Pete Carroll. Hey, do you want Jim? Do you want my lineman?
Yeah, I don't think Pete Carroll has an ounce of hate in his body outside of the 1 ounce of hate for Jim Harbaugh.
That's a whole pound of hate for Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, I highly doubt that's going to happen.
No. Would be nice. They could have drafted him if they wanted to, though. At the end of the day, 31 out of 32 teams lose in the NFL. Firing a coach for 3 games lost is stupid. Everyone, BTFU or GTFOH. This is from Oronde 92.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the Chargers, it's looked bad the last 4 games, but they don't have a losing record. They didn't have a losing record in both the years with Jim Harbaugh. So
yeah,
give it a bit. Let's see how this team responds to the adversity.
Yeah, I'm definitely not at the point where I'm firing coaches. I think that's still a few games away if things keep up.
You could fire one coach.
They could fire a position coach that I think is justified, but that's not happening right now.
No, I don't think so. This is a whole season issue, for better or worse.
Adianda in here with another one says, for the Herbert haters, I'd love to see any other top QB play with our O-line. They'd end up like Burrow. I think, there's not many of the top end quarterbacks who have this level of offensive line right now. Like, maybe Trevor Lawrence, but he's like a ways down the list.
Not that same tier of quarterback, yeah.
No, definitely not. But like, Allen has a great offensive line. Hurts has a great offensive line. Stafford has a very good offensive line. Dak has a great offensive line. The Ravens offensive line is like okay, even though Tyler Linderbaum is not playing well and Ronnie Stanley is hurt, it's still not as bad as this, and Lamar's injured himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not many top quarterbacks have to deal with this outside of Herbert and Burrow.
Yeah.
The Packers offensive line is great. So
Tara
Romero says, sadly and ruthfully, is that supposed to say rightfully? Probably. The reasons for the regression is everything: injuries, no run game, red zone offense, run defense, etc. This won't be a quick fix.
Yeah, unlikely to be a quick fix. This is a multi-game survival and getting back to being hopefully the positive and good team that you were. Yeah. Injuries starting there, no run game, red zone. Yeah,
Yeah, you're trying to make sure you're in a position post-bye to really make a push and be able to be back to who you want to be. I think is the goal for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, so this is a survival 4 weeks, steal 2 games, hopefully, and then see what you got.
Yep. Tara with another one says, Herbert to Gadsden equals future. We finally have a tight end. Yeah, it feels nice to finally have like a long-term outlook at the position that's not like, hey, maybe Jared Cook can do something for us. Maybe Gerald Everett can do something for us. Oh, Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst. Oh, maybe Tyler Conklin. Like, they have been on this revolving door of journeyman tight ends. And so it does feel very good to have a long-term solution, hopefully in Oronde Gadsden the second.
Yeah, I think so.
Carlos Argueta says, I'm usually the optimist within my friend group. I don't know why, but this game just broke me. I don't think even Harbaugh could save us.
I think there's a lot of Chargers fans, not necessarily Carlos, but they still had hope for this game and the defense. And like, well, the Colts didn't play anyone that's any good, and we'll turn it around and this and that.
Yeah.
For me, it's not the game that breaks me, just because you and I are both said like the Colts are gonna score offense. Well, yeah, for one, it's been much worse. Our skin's a little bit thicker over the years, but I don't know. I thought we picked the Chargers to lose, and we thought the Colts would score a lot of points. Now watching it still sucks, but I don't know. This is the Commanders game was worse. The Giants game was worse for me. Those games were far more disappointing to me than losing to a team that was basically perfectly matched up against them.
Yeah, losing to the Giants still to me is inexplicable. And like, I know that they're a much friskier team now, but that the Chargers had no business losing that game. That game will be one of the most frustrating games that I've ever watched the Chargers play for my lifetime as a fan. This one, like, it just was not a positive matchup for this team with all the injuries and things like that.
Tim says, am I the only one inspired after this game? Yes.
Yeah, for sure. The only one.
Gadsden's
You are on
mom,
an island.
yeah, maybe Oronde Gadsden's mother, and that's about it.
Yeah. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man says maybe I can save the team. Hell yeah, dude. Spider-Man can absolutely get out there and play some center reps. He's got the strength of the anchor to do that.
Yeah.
He can set an edge.
Whatever at this point. Like good, like sticky hands for sure. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Adianda 92 back again says, which players do you think the Chargers can realistically acquire before the trade deadline? I still firmly believe they will add a running back. I don't know if that will be this week because they're going to play on Thursday. It's pretty difficult to get a player up to speed in that short week. But next week, when you have a long week, that is definitely the time to go make a potential trade. You know, there's been some mentions of some offensive linemen, but it's like, you know, a lot of people have pointed to Kevin Zeitler, but Kevin Zeitler, not that he can choose where he's going to go as a trade player, but his team's not starting Kevin Zeitler over Zion Johnson and Mekhi Becton. I can tell you that. So can they get a better swing tackle situation? Probably, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
running back, yes, I think can definitely happen. Maybe a defensive tackle if there's anybody out again, but running back for sure can be addressed.
Yeah, it feels like running back for me. If they really knew in their heart of hearts that the line was terrible, they needed to get a guy, they would have done more of that recently, not as they're getting healthier and have seen more from someone like Deculus, who I do not think is great. But I think at this point, for your what will eventually be your fourth tackle, I think he's fine. So I think now that they're getting healthier, I don't see them suddenly going and trading for a player barring injury.
Yeah, I agree. Brochacho says need Connor Liu or a Slater replacement for round 1. Connor Liu just tore his ACL, and Dane Brugler did say that the center class is a lot better, but there's no round 1 guy at this time. So that's probably a round 2 or round 3 spot for the Chargers. Slater replacement, we have no idea how that's going to go. So I'm not at that point yet. Obviously the Chargers will have a lot more information of how that's going to go by next April. But I don't believe they will be taking a tackle in the first round.
No. If they're taking a tackle in the first round, Slater had retired. Like that's basically what it is. There's no way they're taking a tackle in the first round.
Yeah.
That's a true tackle.
That's a true tackle. Yes. Sergio, I don't know if there was a question attached to this, but we appreciate the super sticker either way. Dre says Stalwart Bozeman is our captain and future starter. I don't know, man. If he allows over 40 pressures, there's just no way that this team can justify bringing him back as the starter. And I know I see your face, Tyler, but they didn't really have a choice this year. They will have a choice next year. It just can't happen. Like it just can't. There's no way that this team can justify that.
I agree with you. No, there is no way they can justify it.
They're going to try though.
But by golly, Jim Harbaugh is going to get half the fan base on board.
I don't even know if he could do that, man. Jim Harbaugh can sell a lot to a lot of people, but
yeah,
Bradley Bozeman, maybe like his family and the coaching staff and maybe 1% of the fan base. This is really weird to me. Camper says, where was Jamari? He was swinging nothing today. How much do we miss Hampton? Any ideas how they can put Derwin Dayon into better positions? So Jamari was back today. He was a limited participant in practice. So he technically was not like fully healthy, but he dressed. And when Austin Deculus got injured, they put Foster Sorrell left tackle and not Jamari Salyer. And then Mekhi Becton got injured, and they put Foster Sorrell in at right guard and not Jamari Salyer.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. If he's healthy enough to play, did he just get benched for Bobby Hart and Foster Sorrell in the same week? Is that what we're doing now? Like you handed this man the swing guard spot, no competition, and now 7 weeks later, he's benched for Foster Sorrell and Bobby Hart? Is that where we're at with Jamari Salyer?
Yeah, there's swing options with no contest or no competition. Well, also had Branson Taylor, and yet we're now into this part of the season, and there's no Branson Taylor, and I guess Jamari's officially benched. Thankful that there are enough injuries where he can justify having a spot still, because Bobby Hart and Foster Sarell being above you is kind of rough. Frankly, I think they probably should have kept Foster Sarell around last year during the preseason, but he played pretty well. I don't remember how much he ended up being back and forth on the roster, but I think he's a fine interior and tackle swing guy. Yeah, I don't know about Jamari. It's been a roller coaster with him. Wow, he looks really great. Never mind. Wow, he looks really great. Nope, just kidding. Hey, maybe he started this one practice. Nope, just kidding. Not involved at all. Hey, he lost some weight. Looks pretty good. Just kidding. Bobby Hart. I don't know what to tell you with him.
Yeah, super strange. I do not understand how this happened. So I would expect he is like closer to 100% next week. But yeah, man, I don't know. I did not love to see Foster Sarell go out there instead of Jamari Sawyer, but we'll see what happens, I guess, with that.
Yeah.
Christian Hernandez says, what has legitimately happened to our D line? I think we kind of touched on this, but they miss Poona Ford for sure. Jamari Caldwell has had some really good moments, but he still is a rookie who can lose leverage at certain times. Eboigbe and Otito Ogbonia are not good run defenders at all in any aspect. So they missed Deshaun Hand a lot more than people think. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no kidding. I know he wasn't a DeForest Buckner type, but the 2 to 3 pressures, their best pass rusher, it's sorely missing.
Yeah. And then he says, I just want D-line at this point. Forget running back. They definitely need a running back. And Hassan Haskins got injured today himself. So they, I don't know how serious that injury is, but they do need a running back, especially if Hampton is back post-bye and not have, for the Steelers game kind of situation. But they if they want to, they can go find a defensive tackle. I think they can trade for one of those. That is a position that you can find on the trade market.
Who's on their practice squad right now?
I think it's Tara still.
Huh. Big boy pick 6. Practice squad is Fuga. Oh, no, sorry, he's reserve injured. My bad. Moving on. That's a really long list of injured players. Anyway, Tara Edwards. Good pull.
That's it, right? Because they did not keep the other ones.
Who's Isis Waxter?
He's like a corner they signed a few weeks ago.
Who did they sneak onto the roster? I've never heard of this guy.
Yeah. It was a few weeks ago. Never heard of that guy before they signed him either. I was like, I texted Alex Katzen and I was like, who is this player? And even he was like, I don't know.
They're turning over every rock, I guess. Jeez.
Yeah. They are doing a lot of practice squad maneuvering right now. That is for sure. There's a lot of changes going on there. Even Thomas Martinez says, who the fuck is that guy?
I've never heard of this player, and he's a rookie from Villanova. I mean, I wasn't exactly pounding Villanova film, but yeah, I know Marlo Wax. That's about it.
Yeah, let's look at the defensive tackle real quick.
Oh God. Man.
Oh man, this is where we're at looking at trades again.
It's impromptu trade show. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Hey, remember when I did a defensive heavy simulation in the offseason? I almost feel like that kind of maybe would have worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was dumb.
Kalen Saunders, who the Jaguars traded for, is like barely playing for them. They could get Austin Johnson from the Jaguars.
Yeah.
A little reunion action.
What's
Solomon Thomas from the Cowboys? Wouldn't hate that.
Mozzie Smith from the Cowboys. Finally.
Yeah.
Available free agents. Hey, are we?
Linval Joseph, let's go.
Christian Wilkins, baby. Come on.
I don't know, man. It's bad.
What can you tolerate for a win?
Yeah. Oh, I don't even have the energy for this right now. Any final thoughts, Tyler, before we head out?
Oh, that was our last super chat. Oh, great. I have no more thoughts. Thoughts are gone. Moved on to Thursday.
Yes. The good news is that they play on Thursday this week. This is a game. This is a week where I think you want to play on Thursday because you have no other choice but to flush this game and move on. We as the fan base, we do not have that luxury. So we will continue to think about this game tomorrow. Hopefully you guys don't let it ruin your week, and hopefully a Thursday goes a little bit better than this week. So we will be back on Tuesday in some capacity. I don't know if we're going to do a film review or what, but we will be here on Tuesday. And then Thursday this week is obviously the game. So we'll have a bit of a different schedule. I'm also going back to Utah this weekend. So Tyler is going to be figuring the post, next show out on his own. So he'll let you know about that. And then I'll be back the following week for what's the next game? The Titans preview.
Titans.
Yes.
There's a win on the horizon, folks.
Yeah. There's a win on the horizon. All right, everybody. That is going to do it for us today. Appreciate you so much for tuning in. As always, make sure to subscribe, like, comment. All that stuff does continue to grow our show. And we will see you next time. As always, bolt up.